Hello everyone, welcome to Kevin's Rock Chronicles on 103.5 The Sun. I'm your host Kevin Damask. Thanks for joining me tonight. And we are back. This week we're celebrating albums with famous covers, ones that inspired other bands through the years, and I guess covers that maybe contain good artwork or some type of imagery that definitely caught your eye, and the music behind it happened to be pretty darn good as well too. Yeah, I got the idea for that a couple weeks ago. I think I was listening to maybe some Deep Purple or classic hard rock, and thought, yeah, that might be a good opportunity for a show. And it's kind of a lost art, I think, in this generation of digital downloads. How many people actually buy CDs even anymore? Most of the music is downloaded on their phones, and we really don't see the packaging and the album cover as much nowadays. So I don't know how really important it is to have that signature look on the cover of your album. But going back to the 80s, 70s especially, when you're looking at rock music, there's definitely some legendary album covers. Look back in the age of vinyl records, and in recent years vinyl records have sort of been on the uptick again too. People are collecting them, and some of the younger generation are getting back into vinyl, which is very cool. So it kicked off this week's show with a little Quiet Riot from 1983, Mental Health, Bang Your Head. And the Mental Health album, if you recall, features a man that's in a straitjacket all wrapped up, and he's got the mask on, kind of looks like Hannibal Lecter, if you remember the Silence of the Lambs, and definitely might be a crazy person, it looks like. But yeah, Mental Health, not only did it feature a classic album cover, one that sort of caught your eye, it was considered one of the, I guess, breakthrough albums that sort of put heavy metal in the mainstream in the early 80s, and definitely fostered the glam metal, hair metal boom that would go on to last for the next several years. And the album Mental Health was released in March of 1983, and it also spawned the single Come On Feel the Noise. It was Quiet Riot's first album, and it reached all the way up to number 1 of the Billboard 200. Actually replaced the Police's Synchronicity at number 1 in November of '83. And the album actually went on to sell more than 10 million copies. And yeah, the song Bang Your Head, of course, spawned the head-banging culture in the 80s. And musically, the main riff structure of the song comes from an older track called No More Booze, which was originally performed by the band Snow. And that was, Snow was a sort of a precursor to Quiet Riot, as two of the members, Carlos and Tony Cavazzo, the band, were in the band Snow before Quiet Riot. And if you're looking for a live version, check out the album At Last recordings released in 2017. Well, we'll move along here on Kevin's Rock Chronicles on the Sun. Appreciate you joining me tonight. And this next album I'm going to play for you. We'll play it first, and then we'll come back and talk about it. But it's off of Led Zeppelin's very first album, basically called Led Zeppelin 1, as it really didn't have a title. But it features pretty classic, memorable album cover, and we'll catch up to you on that right after Dazed and Confused. That is Led Zeppelin off of their first album, just simply considered Led Zeppelin 1, from 1969 with Dazed and Confused. You're listening to Kevin's Rock Chronicles on The Sun here in Sun Prairie, Wisconsin. Thanks for joining me tonight, and we're celebrating albums with famous covers. And of course, Led Zeppelin's first album featured, I'm assuming it's a Hindenburg. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's got to be the Hindenburg erupting in that famous photograph, unless it's another Zeppelin that exploded in midair. But yeah, that was the famous album cover for Led Zeppelin's first album. Of course, Led Zeppelin. You kind of get the picture there. And the story behind how Led Zeppelin got its name is kind of interesting as well. Keith Moon, the late great drummer of the Who, one night was talking to Jimmy Page, and Jimmy was talking about he had left the Yardbirds and he was creating this new band. At the time, they were called the New Yardbirds, but he knew that wouldn't really catch on, and probably legally had to change the name. And so he was talking about this new band he's forming, and Keith kind of joked and dismissed it and said, well, that'll go over like Led Zeppelin, and yeah, there you have it. So that's the story behind Dazed and Confused, and yeah, that's a song that was actually inspired by a folk rock track that was released by Jack Holmes, and Jimmy Page, when he was with the Yardbirds, saw Holmes perform a version similar to the Led Zeppelin version that we'd come to know, and this would actually create a lawsuit many years later. But Jimmy definitely got inspired by Jack Holmes' song, and Jack went as far as to say, Page sent somebody out to get my album. He did a great job, but he certainly ripped me off. The Yardbirds played this song in concert, but never recorded a studio version, although they did play it for the BBC in March of 1968, just before Jimmy left to form Led Zeppelin. While Led Zeppelin's version was not credited to Jack Holmes, as Page felt that he changed enough of the melody and added enough new lyrics to escape a plagiarism lawsuit. Holmes took no action at the time. He did later contact Page regarding the matter. Holmes finally filed a lawsuit in 2010 alleging copyright infringement, naming Jimmy as a co-defendant. Well, Holmes ended up settling with Jimmy Page, and the case was dismissed in January of 2012. So the songwriting credit was actually changed for Dazed and Confused. It now shows Jimmy Page inspired by Jack Holmes. And in case you never might have heard of Jack Holmes, he never really hit it big in his album musical production career, but he did write some pretty famous jingles, including Be All That You Can Be for the U.S. Army and Be a Pepper for the soft drink Dr. Pepper. And yeah, Dazed and Confused has been a staple of Led Zeppelin throughout their career, and they sometimes improvise a song for up to 40 minutes. Crazy. And this is a little funny side note. In 2014, Ben & Jerry's released a short-lived flavor called Hazed and Confused, referencing not only the song, but the popular 1993 comedy film, Dazed and Confused. The ice cream sounds pretty good. It was a pint that contained both chocolate and hazelnut flavors with a hazelnut fudge core. Sounds good. Well, next up, we'll just jump ahead 1 year here for another band that definitely pioneered the hard rock, heavy metal sound in the early 70s along with Led Zeppelin. Talking about Black Sabbath and their song The Wizard. And it was off their very first album, released in 1970. And we'll play it for you now and talk about the creepy cover for Black Sabbath's debut album. From 1970, that is Black Sabbath off of their debut album with The Wizard. And The Wizard was a song that, according to Geezer Butler, the bass player and chief songwriter pretty much primarily for Black Sabbath, yeah, The Wizard was inspired by a fictional wizard who spreads his magic all around to people that he encounters. And in 2005, Geezer did an interview with Metal Sludge and said that the song's lyrics were actually influenced by the wizard Gandalf from The Lord of the Rings.
YouTube, I guess. And it's on television.
Well, we're not running it on television.
And 103.5. Which I can't find that one anyway. I don't know why I can't find that. And we used to be able to check those. Is it on there?
You were live. This is your Wednesday show, I think.
I wasn't live on my Facebook stuff. But this says right here that it is on.
Yeah, but it's. I'm looking at our Facebook, and there's nothing on live right now. But according to that, it should